Okay, so first of all, thanks for everyone's time tonight. So I know someone, you just finished your work, and also the maybe you just still have the dinner with your children, or you're still gonna take care of a lot of other home stuff. So first of all, I'm really appreciate everyone's attending um, today's webinar. So before we officially start, I just give the quick introduction about three guest speaker today. So first speaker, maybe you can see on the screen. She is the registered tax practitioner. Her name is Ivy Lin. So Ivy have over 20 years in the Australian taxation system, and she also very expertise in tax return and also some other the taxable structure. So the second speaker I want to introduce to everyone is the Renee Wong. So maybe you can see on the slides as well. So Renee is the partner and the mortgage broker. She has over 15 years lending experience. She also has a master accounting degree, and she is also the partner for the Award Mortgage. Award Mortgage is the first 20 the mortgage firm in Australia. The last one is myself. My name is Jacob. I'm the host and also the third speaker for this seminar. I'm the full licensed financial planner. Also, I'm the SMSF Accredited Financial Advisor and the Chartered Retirement Planning Counsellor. I have both the Master and Bachelor degree in financial planning. Okay, so we just start now. So today's webinar is about the navigating Australian tax reform era. So probably so some of you know that. So in last few months, so Australia federal budget has a few legislation about the taxation change. The first of the taxation is about the superannuation tax. So Ivy and me will explain this one to you later. So the most concern question everyone may have for today's webinar, that is about the CGT tax. So in the coming federal budget in this May, potentially the CGT discount will be adjusted from 50% to 33%. So this is maybe the most concerned question people may have about how many impacts you may receive about your ongoing or your new investment property for the future. The second one also it potentially raise more concern about the negative gearing policy. That policy have not been passed yet, but more the discussion about the negative gearing policy maybe for future. The next one would be is about your personal tax rate change for next financial year. So this is our agenda. So this our agenda is like divided like three parts. So first part, we will like the Renee to start a little early about the if the interest rate change and if your personal tax rate gonna change, and if there is any other current policy, how may it gonna impact on your mortgage. For example, if you are the first home buyer, or if you are looking for the next investment property, and how does it gonna impact the banking year evaluation system, and how much it's going to impact your borrow capacity. The second part, I will leave it to Ivy to explain a little bit more about what's the latest tax reform insights. She will explain a little bit more about how does those tax legislation change, and what's the difference in the numbers. And the last part is back to me, so I will explain a little bit more about who and how much impact who gonna receive a lot of impact for those tax legislation change, and how much impact it's gonna be. And also I will give some tips about what you are looking for, what potentially you can do for the future based on those the current tax legislation change. Okay, so first I will give this part to Renee.
So the first part I would like to introduce, actually today there's going to be 4 parts. First part is a 5% deposit scheme, and second is about capital gain and offset account. And the third part is about new tax rate. Will that help with your mortgage? last part is going to be some refinance tips from me. Okay, let's start with the 5% deposit scheme, which is a great news from government. So this 5% deposit scheme, it's about for the first home buyers, they no longer need 20% deposit. They only need a 5% deposit, and the other 15% is going to guarantee from the government, which means you can borrow 95%, but no longer to pay lender mortgage insurance. So when we're talking about first home buyer, if you're holding an investment property and you're going to buy your first home, that's still classified as a first home buyer. Also, for all the lenders, they have limited spot for this scheme. So make sure you talk to your mortgage broker or lender before you apply. So the second part is going to be capital gain and offset account. So for example, in this financial year, you sell some investment properties and you get some capital gain. And instead of putting this money into your loan account as a withdrawal, I would highly recommend you put this money in the offset account. The reason is, if you put this money in the loan account and later on, if you withdraw it for the buying an investment property or you buying shares or stocks, then it's hard to explain to tax office what's this purpose. So when tax office, when you declare this as a part of the investment cost, the tax office will do some test. So I would recommend you keep it separate. Also, when you want to buy investment properties, you need another investment loan. I would highly recommend that you set it up an individual loan instead of mixing the original loan with the next loan. So keep it separate, and it's clear when you're claiming it as an investment for your tax purpose. So when you get this capital gain this financial year, it will show in your individual tax return as an income. But please be careful. This income is not going to consider as your income for servicing of the loan. But it can use as a deposit. Also, it can apply for the 5% deposit scheme if you qualify for the first home buyer. Okay, next one is about the new tax rate. So the tax rate going to reduce a little bit, which means the cash on hand is going to increase a little bit. Yes, it's going to slightly higher your borrowing capacity, but be careful here. There is a bigger factor. Bigger factors we need to consider is coming to lending this year's. Okay, the first one is the new DTI rule. What is the new DTI rule? So the new DTI rule is you no longer can borrow 6 times of your income with banks. Before, they don't have this restriction, but this year, more and more lenders are starting to apply this rule, which means even your income is very high, they just cut off when you borrow already 6 times of your income. That is a new factor. And another one is living expense potential increase. As everyone knows, the inflation has going crazy. So when bank assessing the loan, the HAM, which means is the bank assessing living expense for household, is going to increase, which means it's going to bring down your borrowing capacity. Also, the increasing floor rate. Floor rate is basically the assessment rate for bank to assessment the loan. So when the Reserve Bank increased the interest rate, of course the assessment rate in the bank going to increase. So if it's keep increasing, it's going to bring the capacity down. So yes, the new tax rate, it is a good news. We have a little bit more cash on hand. But when it's coming to lending, there is more factors you need to consider instead of just the new tax rate. Okay, at least about the last part is about refinance tips I can give. As a senior mortgage broker, and also as a property investor, I've been doing some change and refinance of my own loan. So here is some tips. First, today's situation, I believe cash is the king. So we can refinance our existing loan, existing property to cash out. The good thing is you can get some cash on hand. And if you don't touch this money, there will be no repayment for this amount, which means, yes, you can see the cash in there, but if you don't move it, it gives you the security that you have a cash in case something goes wrong. Also, if you cash out from the refinance, it also can be a deposit for your next investment if you see a potential investment coming. The next thing my clients doing at the moment is they changing loan repayment method by refinancing their loan. So instead of paying principal and interest, at the moment, if you choose to change that into an interest-only repayment, that will bring down the repayment. That means also give you a good cash flow. So I understand a lot of people say, I want to pay principal, so I can see the loan going down. But at the moment, because the interest rate is going crazy high, so I think it's clever to restructure your loan. It can be partial of the loan as interest-only repayment. So for example, you can do half-half. So if you do half-half, you reduce the repayment of monthly repayment. Also, the other half, you're still paying some of the principal. Another thing I have to mention is a lot of customers at the moment willing to fix their home loan. So as a mortgage broker, every day I got emails from lenders. They increase their loan 2 or 3 times in a month, which I never see this before. What's this mean? If a lender increase their fixed rate, that means their prediction is the interest rate going to keep going up. So that's why they increase their fixed rate to hold people. A lot of customers willing to change to fixed loan because they want to secure the lower interest rate. But again, it doesn't have to be the whole loan. You still can do partial of fixed and partial of that variable. That give you the secure that you keep the low rate and also give you the ability to offset your part of your loan. And do you know there's some banks even offer fixed rate loan with 100% offset? Okay, that's about it. So always run a loan health check with your mortgage broker and the lender, so you make sure you don't miss out any good offers. Okay, so this is my WeChat QR code. If anyone interested to asking, I'm always here and I'll always answer questions. So I would like to help if you need some. So yeah, that's it. Is there any questions?
So thanks, Renee. So I can see some of you may have the question. So first of all, I can see someone, you raise your hands and you may want to ask question. So I see the Matt, so I think probably you raise your hands. Would you please just leave your question in the question section? Just everyone can see on the top right hand side, there is a question mark where you can feel to pop up your question here, and we can just I will ask the host and read it for everyone one by one. So Renee, I have my first question for you. So let me just find out my question. Yes, so my first question is that you mentioned the DTI, right? So yep. I mean, if the clients have the more than one investment property, like the 2 or 3 investment property, would you please a little bit more about the DTI, and will DTI restrict clients' borrowing capacity for the future?
Yes, 100%. At the moment, the good news is it's not all the lenders have this new DTI rule. There's a couple major banks starting to apply this new rule, which means, yes, if you go to that bank, they're going to, when they're doing the serviceability calculator, they're going to cut off when you reach the 6 times. But the good news is not all the lenders have this yet. And all from what I knew, the non-bank lenders at the moment, none of them has applied this rule. So if you are investment portfolio holder, highly recommend to talk to your mortgage broker, find out what's the lender best for you. And yes, you still can borrow more and cash out at the moment. Later on, I don't know what's going to happen, but at the moment, there's definitely a gap. So you can do things, cash out and buying new property and stuff.
Thank you. So my second question would be, so if the client who is planning to buy another property under the very popular structure, which is the SMSF, so would you please talk a little bit about so how do you know about the client SMSF, the borrowing capacity? Would you please explain a little bit about like if clients want to buy the property and borrow under the SMSF? How do you assess the capacity, please? Thanks.
Yeah, good news is for self-management super fund purchase, when it's coming to lending about that, bank is not assessing your individual debts, which means you can have a $5 million loan already with banks under your individual name. When you come to self-management super fund, they not consider the liability on your individual name. So which means self-management super fund is an individual entity that when it's come to the lending serviceability, we consider of the rental of the investment property you're purchasing and also the super fund contribution. That's the 2 income a bank going to assess on. So at the moment, rarely banks have accept self-management super fund loan. Majority is they are from non-bank lending, which at the moment non-bank lending is getting more and more popular because of the current situation. So good news is it doesn't calculate in individual one, and it's starting from fresh. So basically, you can go to even 9 times of the income within the self-management super fund as your serviceability.
All right, thank you, Renee. So thanks for your time. We still have a little bit more time back to you if anyone have any question at the ending. So now I just leave this part to the Ivy. So Ivy is a very reputational and the tax agent. Probably any of you may see the Ivy's video in the right notes. So Ivy also have a lot of fans. So now I just handle this part to Ivy and make Ivy as a presenter so she can share.
Hi everyone, good evening, and thank you so much for joining me today. Okay, so my name is Ivy. I'm a FCPA and founder of Ivy Growth Partner. Today we are going to talk about something quite important and honestly quite urgent for property investors in Australia. So we will broken down what's coming out of the Senate inquiry report and more importantly, what it means for you as an investor and how you can position yourself moving forward. Let's start with the big picture, the why behind all those changes. There's now official recognition from the government that the current tax system is actually contributed to rise property price, and the data is quite telling. So over the last 5 years, about 92.2% of investment loans have gone into existing property. So only 7.8% has gone into new housing construction. So what that means in simple terms, It means investors are not creating supply. We are competing with each other for the same property. And from the policy perspective, it's a problem. So the direction is very clear from the government. The government wants to shift investors' behavior. And this also means something important for you. The traditional tax advantage we are rely on are very likely decay over time. Before we go deeper, just a quick background about myself. I'm founder of Ivy Growth Partners, and I've been working in Australia taxation for over 20 years. Throughout my career, I've been working closely with investors, business owners, and high-income professionals. And my focus has always been the same, helping clients grow their wealth in a tax efficiency and substantial way. Okay, let's start to the first refund area, personal income tax. The government is gradually lowering tax rate from many Australians. We have seen the rate drop from 19% down to 60% and move to 50% this year, and for next financial year will be 14%. On the surface, the 5% total drop sounds like a major win, but we need to look at actual impact on your bank account. So how much this means to you in your bank account change? For the average workers, this change for next financial year put about $500 a year back in your pocket. That's broken down to roughly $10 per week, just 2 coffee. Anyway, any extra money is helpful, but it's not. But let's be honest, the path for the inflation, not a shortcut to wealth. They help you cover the basic today, but it's personal investment strategy that will truly help you succeed tomorrow. Second part is superannuation refund. Let's talk about the big changes on the superannuation, especially the Division296. This tax to individual with total super balance about 3 million. So only Australia, only 0.5% currently people have super balance over 3 million. There was a lot of concern during the draft phase, but we now have the final law. The law just passed on the March just last month. And it's included some really important win for taxpayers. First, most important classification, unrealized capital gain are not taxed now. So the government listened to the feedback and moved to paper gain tax. So you will only tax on the realized gain. This means actual income from the asset you have actually sold. So your tax bill won't go up because your property or your share increase in value on the paper. That's the good things. The second thing is the threshold. They talk about 3 million and 10 million are in debt. So this threshold will now raise with inflation. This is really, really important because it makes sure the tax stay focused and doesn't accidentally catch more people over time, because over 3 million, look, Australia inflation, maybe another 5 years, a lot of people will reach that 3 million. So that keep inflation, that's really good. Okay, so how do the rates look now? If under 3 million, you are in the safe unit, so your tax rate will stay the same, 15% now. But if you are super balanced, that's per person. Remember, it's per person. Normal, yeah, per person is 3 million. So if over 3 million to 10 million, the rate will be double to 30%. Over 10 million will be 14%. So the government have made it clear it's no longer unlimited tax shelter for the massive balance. If you approach that 3 million mark, the set and forget days are over. You need a proactive strategy to manage your tax efficiency. Now let's move into most critical part of today's session. So real estate property. Think about how the system works right now. Negative gearing, the government subsidizes you when you lost today. And capital gain discount, the government discount you when you make a profit tomorrow. Basically, the system rewards you for losing money and then reward you again for making it. But the Senate inquiry is not called this destruction because investors are tracing tax break on existing house rather than build a new one. We are not solve the house shortage problem. There are two massive pressure on the government right now. The first pressure from the government is the social pressure. It's getting really hard for first home buyer to compete with the investor. The second pressure is budget pressure. Those tax breaks cost the government billions every year. It's simply no longer sustainable. So we are heading toward two major shifts. So the first one is negative gearing. So expecting it to be limited, like all-in for new building, maybe, or cap on the certain dollars amount. Or and discount, capital gain discount, we expecting 50% discount to drop, potentially drop to 33%. So what that costs you, let's look at a real example. Say you sell a property and you make 300,000 profit. Your tax rate is 39%. This is average Australia people, 39%. The result is you pay nearly 20,000 more for the exactly same amount. That's a 34% jump in your tax bill. So if you buy it now before the law change, you may be able to take advantage of grandfathering. The law is if the law change later, the property you bought before the changes will still keep a 50% capital discount. So save you a lot of money when you're going to sell it, or you can still use negative benefit if you buy it before the law changes. With these changes coming in the future, the big question is, what should you do as an investor? The game is changing and your strategy need to change it with it. So I recommend you focus on the 3 key points. The first one is the priority of cash flow. So in the past, many investors use negative gearing as a safe net for loss-making property. But as the tax benefit reduce, you can no longer rely on government to subsidize your loss. So the goal is look for the property that can stand on their own financially. High-yield assets are no longer just an option. They are become necessity for the sustainable portfolio. The second point is hold longer and add value. Selling is become more expensive. Between high entry costs and potential high tax on the sale, instead of selling, look at asset optimization. Ask yourself, how can I maximize the land, the property I already own? Maybe you do some renovation to increase tax depreciation and rental appeal. Or you want to add a Grammy flat or dual occupancy to double your income stream. Or you want to increase the yield on your existing property rather than chasing the new expensive entry. The third point is the mindset shift. the most important takeaway today is property is moving away from being tax-driven speculation and back being professional rental business. You aren't just holding an asset anymore. You are managing a business that provides housing success in this new economy won't come from tax losses. It will come from you, efficiency, and smart management. As we wrap up today's session, I want to leave you with a practical 3-step checklist. The market is shifting, and the best way to handle uncertainty is through the preparation. The first one is suggest test your cash flow. Don't wait for the law to change to find out if you are at risk. Run the number today. If your tax benefit would reduce by 30% or 50%, could your portfolio still okay itself? So moving from tax loss mindset to cash flow mindset is the best way to future-proof your investment. The second is review your ownership structure. Tax efficiency is often determined by how you hold asset, not just what you own. It's under your personal name or company, or in the trust, or super fund, because each structure will be affected differently by those changes. Now is the time to sit down with your tax professional to make sure your current setup is still the right fit for the new law change. The third one is rebalance and capitalize on the grandfathering. History shows that when major tax laws occur, the government often including grandfathering provision for existing assets. This means there may be a limited window of opportunity to acquire or restructure asset before the new law take effect. Assuming your portfolio now allow you to move in where you still have the advantage. The rule of the game and change, but the goal remain the same. We cannot control government's policy, but we can definitely control our strategy. Your financial outcome the next decade won't be defined by the tax cut or the refunds themselves. It will be defined by how you respond to them today. So let's make sure you are positioned not just to survive those changes, but to succeed because of them. Okay. Now, bring us to the end of today's session. I hope this has given you some clearness and maybe also a bit of urgency. Now I'm love to open the floor for questions. So feel to drop your question in the chat. So I will go through as much as I can. Yeah.
Thanks, Abby. So no worries. So first of all, I have the question for you. It's if the sum of the client they already hold the property for investment property, right? And if the federal budget in the coming May change the CGT discount from 50% to 33%, so then what are you gonna suggest? Just no advice speaking, but I mean do you think that it's appropriate like the client just change the structure right now? Or maybe consider about some other structure like a family trust, SMSF, I mean, they still hold the property under their personal name.
Okay, thank you for your question. That's really, really good question. Historically, the Australian government has a strong track record of applying grandfathering provision to major tax changes. So this means if you already own the asset or have signed a contract before the law change it, so you usually get to keep the rule that were in the place at that time. So if you currently 50% capital gain discount and negative gearing benefit will be likely the same. So as for rush out to buy another property, I think will there is window of opportunity lock in the current benefit before you disappear? So you say now, because they still it's difficult because government want to change this law to shift investor behave maybe buy the new property. But the question is, I think if I hold the property, if I have a 50% discount, I have negative gearing, but I will still can claim negative gearing. I will still have I will not sell the property. If that makes sense to you, I'm not going to change it, but I'm not going to sell that property because I can use I still normally they will have a grandfathering provision, so you will get a better discount for you holding the property. If changing this law, the old property will not one going to sell it, so it's less supply, so the price will go up. That's my projection. Yeah,
Exactly.
is this answer the question?
Yes, I really appreciate and thanks for your time, because your answer probably gonna relate to my part. So I still gonna give you the Q&A back to you in the ending. So probably now I just start my part right now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just share my screen. Okay, I will focus on the solution part. So my part, I will focus on, maybe you can see I will focus on how many impacts and who will receive those impacts based on those three major taxation change: Division296 tax, superannuation, CGT, and the personal tax. And also I will gonna talk about like what should we consider to make those investment decision, and how we gonna plan in the future. Is any changes for our future plan? Okay. Yeah, before I start, I just also give a little bit about what is the financial planning. Maybe some of you still have the question about what is financial planning. So financial planning, you can think about it. So if you are looking for someone who want to give you a legally financial advice, like that is definitely only the one occupation is a financial planner. Financial planner is quite important because the financial advice from a financial planner will directly make the influence the client's decision, and also financial planner will given on your all of the overall the financial picture, personal information to give you the financial advice. So if you want to know someone who is really be authorized to give the financial advice, maybe I welcome you can go to the ASAC, the financial advisor register, put their detail. Are they allowed to give you the financial advice in legally speaking? That's also gonna protect your best interest. So I also make some jokes with my clients saying, if you have the Asian or Chinese financial advisor around you, you should treat him very well. Yeah, because there are not much Asian or Chinese financial advisor in Australia. Yeah. So about myself, yeah, I also give a little bit introduce. So I come from industry super background. I also used to follow Deloitte as the case assessor to assess all of the big four banks financial planning. And now I'm the financial planner, but also the SMSF Accredited Financial Advisor, and also I'm focused on retirement planning. And the right picture is the direct evidence to saying, okay, I'm authorized to give the financial advice. That is quite important. You should find the right person. So what's the financial planning doing looks like? So I also share the screenshot about myself. So financial planning is not like the Ivy just do the tax agent on the mortgage, Renee just very specific on the mortgage. So financial planning is quite broad. In other words, it's a kind of saying is everything related to your family planning or financial planning is we can just discuss, like the insurance, retirement planning, super investment, even your taxation advice, like how to optimize your tax structure to lower down your personal tax rate, and even some like estate planning, like how to pass the wealth to your next generation, and even like how we're gonna maximize the centralizing entitlement to get the most age pension we can, or even like you want to plan how you're gonna funding your kids the future education, and even maybe you just want to know what's current situation, what's gonna happen for the next 20 to 50 years. That's everything related to the financial planning. That's about me. So before, then we just officially start, our discussion. So first of all, that I really appreciate Ivy to discuss a little bit more about the Division 296 tax. But I just also give a little bit more background about what the super environment looks like. So before we have the Division 296 tax, so our super can divide the two stage. One is your accumulation stage, one is your pension stage. Accumulation stage is like like a government just hoping you just keep contributing money to your super. Government just don't allow you to access to withdraw your super unless there are some very urgent situation, like you cannot perform your work duty permanently, you pass away, or you have some financial hardship. So most of the situation is you just contribute the money to the super, which is called the super accumulation on the left hand side, right? Then the tax rate is still the best tax rate in the market. So you only got the 50% of the income rate. So you hold the assets less than 12%, you pay the 50%, but you hold the assets over the 12 months, you got a 10% CGT rate. That's the best CGT rate in the world. But before the Division 296 tax, so when you in the 60 years old, that you have to permanently retire, or you are in the age 65, whatever you retire or not, you can transfer your super, like this year is 2 million, up to 2 million from the super accumulation to the pension per person. And 2 million in the pension, that which means you got a totally tax-free. Whatever the property or any investment earning from your pension phrase, that is totally tax-free. That's the most amazing part for the super. But right now, with the introduce about the Division 296 tax, so I mean your total super and plus the pension assets, like if there's a balance over the 3 million, and the generated earning will be charged a proportional tax. That's the background. But a lot of people concerned about. But as the financial planner and a super specialist, my question is that really matter? We just see how much impact for you. So my conclusion is not that really matter. Okay. So first of all, is we use the case like if client really have the 3.5 million, like there is a 500K over the 3 million, right? So then if maybe client have the 5% return, and maybe the 5% return basic on the 500, basic on the 3.5 million, you will have like the 175K earning, right? So only because only the 500K over the 3.5 million is the 40%. So there are only the 40% of your earning will be charged additional tax. So which means, so compare with the Division 296 tax before, you don't pay any tax. Compare right now, you only pay the additional 3,000, 4,000 tax. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. And also as I mentioned, so the 3 million is for each person. And if it's a family, like a couple, it will be indexed to the 6 million, will be combined to the 6 million if it's a SMSF. So as Ivy mentioned, I also agree. So there are not much people, your retirement balance will reach the 3 million. And two, there's one scenario that is you have the property in your superannuation. That's the only circumstance that you may face the Division 296 tax. So some of them you may probably don't know about if the super can buy the property. Even I say that to the client saying, okay, super also can use to buy your first home, but that is another story. So super definitely can be used to buy the investment property if you have maybe over 200K, no otherwise speaking, you have very stable super contribution, and also you have the risk management, that you have the professional people's help. So why a lot of people may be considered about use SMSF to purchase property, because I may ask anyone's question that it's so why you just use the leverage like to borrow the money to buy the property under yourself? Because it's the same story, right? You use the leverage. If you only have the 200K earn a 5%, maybe every year is very less return. But you use the 200K, borrow another 600K, you will get the 800K net asset value. And what's the 5% for the 800K net asset value? That would be a lot than the 200K super balance. That's the same story for the superannuation environment, where we can see on the first on the top image, you can see the big balloon and the small balloon. Well, we can consider about when you use the money to pay off your mortgage, you're gonna use your after tax money, which maybe after your personal tax rate, it means 30%, 35%. Well, when you contribute to your super to pay off the loan, you'll only be deducted 15%, and also major funding may come from your super contribution, super guarantee, that you probably don't typically contribute a lot if you have very stable super guarantee contribution, and your rental income gonna pay off your mortgage. So we can see on the top, that is a large balloon. So maybe you have the pump up the 800K in your super, that potentially 20, 30 years, that balloon gonna maybe to become the 2 million, or maybe even more. That is very close to the Division296, the threshold. But as I mentioned, if you are the couple, husband and wife, you become you set up an SMSF, you get 3 million. So for no advice speaking, as a financial advisor and a super specialist, I won't just worry about a lot about the Division296 tax, but that is a signal. Okay. So that's the first thing about the Division296 tax. The second thing about the personal tax rate. So I also just expand this one a little bit, even I know that Ivy just talked about a little bit. So the next financial year is a stage 3, the full government gonna just change the tax rate. Maybe we can see compare the 25, 26, 27, the tax threshold has not much change. Only we can see is for some low income earner where salary is fall in the 18K to the 45K this the category, and your tax rate is gonna be lower down a little bit from 16 to 50%, even down to the 40% in the next financial year. You're gonna save the few $100, but not that much. So as I mentioned, looks like the personal tax rate hasn't impacted us a lot. Okay. The next question, the next part is the CGT. That's also our today's topic. I would say the CGT is maybe the most, looks like the part gonna influence you the most. But I also give the solution. Okay, so maybe we just cover this one again. So if you have the 1 million the purchase value of the property and you gain the 1 million, right? So probably saying before the policy, so we still have the 50% CGT discount. So you only have the 500K and gonna be calculated, for your personal tax. And if you is a share by your husband and your wife, it's gonna be divided to half again, right? But if it's only under your name, which means you're gonna pay the 235K if it's 500K CGT. But if the legislation has been changed to 33%, which means you're gonna have a more taxable income, you're gonna have the more earning gonna be distributed under your name. So sounds like if it's a property under yourself, right, you're gonna pay 80K more tax. That sounds a lot. Then we move to the solution. Is that a real story? I may have anyone to think about this question. So is that really matter just because the CGT legislation change? Will it just gonna impact our, the next investment property purchase? So my question is probably no, because from a financial planner view, so CGT probably is definitely is one factor gonna impact. Definitely is when you think about to selling this property, and maybe it's gonna impact your value, your final value redeemed, right? But consider about like maybe the 20 or 30 years, or maybe so, there are a lot of factors to impact your property, to impact like for example, like before you sell the property, right? How much your rental income. If it's a new property, you may have the depreciation, and if there's any like the house land, you may have the maintenance otherwise strata for the apartment, And if you own a land, you may consider about landlord insurance and landlord tax. Also, you may consider about if you ask some rent agent to take care of your rental, you may gonna be charged 8% to 10% fees for their rental management, and like bills, mortgage, insurance, etc. So there are so many things gonna impact your property management. They gonna impact your cash flow or property value, not just about the CGT. And even like when you think about the selling the property, right? So we also have some taxation or contribution super strategy. Depends on your timing, depends on like I will show you later, like which stage you are currently in. Is that in the post-retirement or in the pre-retirement, or like in the just a young family? Depends on your age group. So we can just think about some strategy to lower down your tax. So right. So I give the real example about the client. For example, this client called Vicky. So we can see if the clients like a Vicky, like this is like the financial planning software I use to analyze the client's background, and we can see. And if before the CGT like legislation change, maybe the clients have investment property, new investment property purchase and sold down at her age 60. Probably her net capital maybe is 4.8 million, including all other assets. But if with the CGT 33% change, yeah, it looks like her property, like net asset value, has been downsized a little bit. But just as I mentioned, so CGT is not the key factor going to impact your investment decision, next decision. The thing that's going to impact you is, do you have the full vision about your property? Do you have the think about it before you purchase a property? So what you want to achieve to purchase this investment property? What you are looking for holding this investment property? Is that just for a few years, or is it like you want to use this property to accumulate your retirement capital, and then you're looking to sell in the future 20, 30 years? So that's a totally different story. So I'm encouraging everyone to look at it in the high level, but not just a specific CGT rate. Okay, that's my first solution. The second thing I want to share is that just I mentioned in the first case, it's I'm encouraging everyone to think about the whole picture, the high level, rather than just the 1 year CGT tax rate. And for example, if you without a plan and you just hold the property, anything may just impact your financial decision or impact your financial stress. And even like without a clear plan, like what you are looking for, what you want to achieve, you haven't think about it in your life. And maybe some other factor like the redundancy, cash flow stress, healthy issue, some other thing, all may kind of relate to your family changes, some things different. So not just the CGT tax rate. Then the last part is I want to share the few. So I think it's my golden investment financial planning philosophy. First of thing is there are the few 4 or 5 criteria. So you can use this to assess yourself about if your family is on the right track. First of thing is cash flow management, like the surplus income, like your expense control, like your anything liquidity, right? Without your cash flow management, at least the most important foundation, everything we talk about is nothing. Okay. So second thing I want to discuss about is your net assets. And also, I also talk about like if you have a 5 or 10 investment property, that is not the right asset structure. You need to review your asset structure, which one you want to keep to when, and for which purpose you need to think about it. And we need to keep the good assets. If some assets which have a very poor rental income, too much maintains a higher maintain cost, but not much the appreciation, you need to think about, is it worthy we keep it, or why you keep it. Second thing and the third thing is more higher, like the insurance and the family relations. And the top thing is the last part when you think about it, that is how we're gonna pass the wealth to our next generation. Is that we just want to get the more centennial age pension, is that more tax we're gonna pay if we transfer to the children, or you just want to put it in the structure like that you want to allocate it to your children wisely in some time when they are ready, okay? The second thing I want to share a little bit about is like we need to consider about our next 40, 30, or 50 years, like before we retire or even after we retire. There are certain stage we need to divide about. First, about between your years, age 25 to 45 years old. That is a young family foundation for the family we're gonna build up, right? Maybe you need to focus on your super, get up your insurance, make sure you got the positive cash flow. The second stage is when you get the kids, when you get the family before you retire 10 years, like you need to think about how you're gonna fund all of the education expense, how to minimize your tax, but also do some wise investment. The most important part that people are concerned about is about the 10 years before you retire. That is from age 55 to age 65. That is the last chance you want to optimize your asset structure and do the retirement planning. Then it's a stage 4 and stage 5. That's probably the almost part I want to share. This page is about I use the financial planning modeling software to generally look at how your financial situation looks like, and also gonna do the few comparison to optimize which one is the best scenario for you, okay? The last part is some tips. First of all, I encourage everyone to ask yourself, just a general ask, so do you have any stress? Is that stress from your family, from your job, or from the interest rate? Second thing is that you need to review your cash flow regularly, at least half annually, or maybe at least annually, okay? Is that positive, or is on track cash flow? The third thing is most of the people may miss, that is you don't typically check your super insurance. That's definitely not wrong. You need to check your super balance, check your super provider, check your beneficiary has been set up in your super insurance. Otherwise, if someone passes away, super just cannot pay the benefits. If you are not sure, you can ask me. Then the last part is you can think about make a plan about the next 1 year or 5 years or maybe 10 years. What are you looking for? What do you want to do? So then every year you can make some detailed action, like you want to achieve the maybe the 10K, the saving, or you want to achieve maybe the 10% investment return, etc. Okay. So then I almost finished my part, and but I also welcome anyone have any question for the mortgage and for the taxation. That's the last section. Okay, so I see some question from Catherine and Jay. Maybe my first question for answer for the Catherine. Catherine asked a question about how much is the operation cost for SMSF? What age should you consider about SMSF? If SMSF is used to buy the property, can you develop property? And when you can? Okay, that's a really good question. So Jade, so about the SMSF operation cost, so basically on the ATO website, so anyone, it's not like specific, like they definitely ask you to have those balance, but I would probably say if your family, husband and wife added together, maybe have around 250K, or maybe have the 200K, but you have very stable super contribution, you can consider about the setup SMSF, no otherwise speaking, okay? It really depends on your scenario. And the operation cost for SMSF, it depends on two parts. First part is ongoing, first part is upfront. Probably you're gonna prepare, the 10K, okay, or even a little bit more if you want to use a buyer agent to purchase some property. Like that is additional cost. But generally speaking, for setup by SMSF and the purchase of property, generally speaking, it may have the 10K that should be ready. But it is 100% come from your super, not from yourself. The second question is what age if you consider about SMSF. As I mentioned, it's not specific age, like you need to, that is an entrance, like the point. I'm probably gonna say if depends on your super balance. So most of the clients, they can consider about set up SMSF from their like the 30 years old, because they do the mortgage another 30 years, and the mortgage will be paid off, will be paid off, before you retire. And can you develop the property I will handle this part to the Ivy to explain a little bit, but can you develop property? It depends on if you have the mortgage. If you have the mortgage, you haven't paid off your loan, then you probably couldn't develop the property. So Ivy, you want to add a little bit more about Jade's question?
Okay, can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Yeah, so the first question is how much for the operation cost for the SMSF?
Okay, operation cost depends. Okay, so here is between 2,000 to 5,000. It depends on your how difficult they are. If your property roughly is 2,500. If a really difficult one, if for example, you have a digital currency or share, is large portfolio can make up to 5,000, but it's really depends. If one property, roughly 2,500.
Okay, then the Jade, the second question is oh, sorry, it's not that from Jade, it's that from Catherine. The Catherine second question is yeah, maybe maybe I read the Jade question for you. Jade question is is that grandfather ruling apply for the negative gearing or just for the CGT? Ivy, that is your part.
For all the tax law changes, if capital gain change and negative change apply for all the tax law changes. Yes, you can use both. Yes, so if a grandfather ruling apply, that means the property, if you bought before the law changes, still have a capital gain 50%, still continue to negative gearing.
Thank
you.
You
are safe.
Yep. So the Catherine, regarding your last question about when you consider about the selling the property bought with SMSF, you can sell the SMSF property anytime. But we, as a financial planner, we encourage people to think about selling the property after you fully retire, because the most amazing part for SMSF holding the property is you hold assets in the pension phase, as I mentioned, after you retire 65. After you reach the age 65 or 60, when you fully retire, any capital gain you sell for the property you buy, if it's under the 3 million, mostly looks like you're gonna pay the zero tax. So we encourage you to hold the investment property for a long term, especially after you retire, but not just very short term. So anyone have any question? So any question for the Renee, mortgage broker, related to any refinance or the DTI rule, anything, etc.? Okay, so Ivy and Renee, you have anything you want to add in the last few more minutes?
No, that's okay. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, then that's probably we wrap up today's webinar, and thanks for everyone's attending. So we probably have the more webinar with the Ivy and Renee for the future, especially is before end of financial year, or we may run another webinar that is more focused on property or buyer agent. So we will keep posting for everyone if you are interested. And if you have any question, please let us know. There's a survey after the wrap up the webinar where we encourage everyone to give us the feedback, and especially if you have any particular question, or if you want your tax agent, your mortgage specialist, or financial planner, me, to know about yourself, your family situation, give you some advice. So please feel free to fill out your information in the survey, and we can definitely help. Thanks everyone's time. Have a good night.